Next up, we're diving into a panel discussion, and we're going to get the chairs up here in a moment. So we're going to have us join us on the stage, rather, Dr. Ahmed Bawazir, the innovative mind behind the Bezos Academy, as he moderates, empowering creativity, beauty, and expression in the educational journey. So this session is all about breaking the mold and exploring how creativity, beauty, and personal expression can be integrated into the fabric of education, transforming the way we teach and learn. Okay, so our moderator, Dr. Ahmed Bawazir, as I said, founder and CEO of the Bezos Academy. Okay, we've had a little bit of a change. So Dr. Bawazir was not able to get here today. So our moderator will be Shanelia Saeed, the Director of Digital Schoolhouse. So please welcome to the stage. Let's give her a round of applause. And our panelists are Artemis Dupa, the CEO for Mark Academy. It's Make Academy. Please excuse my pronunciation. Make Academy. Ryan Nicholas Leong Wei Ren, founder and youth coach, Genius Generation Youth Coaching. And Farida Barmal, founder, Merakai Counseling and Training Center. And John Stephen Wise, Program Director, European School of Economics. Let's put our hands together for all of our panelists today. And our moderator. Please take a seat, friends. And our microphones will be coming out. Okay, we need the microphones on stage, please. Okay, over to you, Shanelia. Testing 1, 2, and 2.
Oh, there we go. Yes, you can hear me? Excellent.
Hello.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Shanelia Saeed. And as introduced, I'm Head of Education for UKI, which is the trade body for the video games industry in the UK. I'm also Director for Digital Schoolhouse. It's my pleasure to be the moderator for our panel this morning and to be joined by an incredible group of experts. We're going to be talking about embracing creativity, beauty and expression in the educational journey. So I have a whole bunch of questions to ask this wonderful group of people. And I'll do so in a minute. There will also be an opportunity where actually we want to hear from yourselves as the audience. And we hope you'll share not just your questions, but your thoughts and your comments as well. Before I go into that, I do want to just sort of set the context a little bit. And if you'll allow me the permission to do so, to be able to introduce myself and our background at the same time. So my work specializes on the intersection between the creative digital industries and education. And a lot of that comes from my previous background. I've been working for UKI for the past 10 years. Prior to that, I spent almost 20 years teaching computer science in a classroom in a London school. And I've had the wonderful pleasure of being able to bring my knowledge of education and what works in the classroom, and to be able to add to it a real in-depth understanding of how the creative digital industries work, and to find that magic spot where the two intersect because I think when you can combine the value of both, that's where the true magic really can begin to happen in classrooms. But one of the things that I've started to develop from really my early days as a teacher, one of the first questions I used to ask was, how can I teach this better? Like, if I'm a computer science teacher, so I was posed to talk about, introduce binary systems and networking and data structures to students, both younger and older. And I thought to myself, there must be a better way than me just standing here and throwing out a bunch of complicated words and expecting the children to understand it. And so it drove me to really sort of think about, how can I do things differently? And so I've evolved or started to develop a play-based learning pedagogy, and that as an approach to teaching computer science. Because play, in my humble opinion, I think is grossly underutilized in education. I'm going to just throw that out there feel free to contest it and disagree. But I think play is an intrinsic human value. It's what defines us as human beings. We all do it from when we're babies, birth upwards. It's how we learn to explore the world around us. You look at children, you don't need to teach them how to play. We don't play for any particular reason other than the fact that it's fun. It's an intrinsic human motivation and a drive to play and interact. And it's through that playfulness as children, we learn about the world around us. We learn about social constructs. We learn about what we can eat and what we can't. We continue to play as we grow older. And that intrinsic nature to have fun never goes. What evolves is how we find that scope and what means fun to us. Pretend games in the playground are not fun to a 40-year-old, potentially. Maybe they are. They are, I think, in some places. But that playfulness, as I said, is underutilized in education. We don't really do much for it. But the thing about playfulness is it's not just fun, but it's a great scope for combining human imagination, curiosity, and as I said, that intrinsic motivation, that self-internal drive that you're doing it, no external factors, but just your own internal, I want to do this. I don't need anyone to convince me to do it. Children, for example, will learn all sorts of things if they're driven by their own internal desire to do it. They'll become a master. That's how you get child geniuses or children creating amazing things in Minecraft or creating. I've taught students that have been creating professional websites for clients at the age of 14, and nobody taught them how to do that. There's no child out there that will say 6 hours of schooling a day is not enough. I need to go home and give myself an extra 3 hours of lesson time. They don't see it as lessons. They see it as play. But that is where also you get creativity. Because the other thing it does, it inspires creative thought and creative thinking. Play is the most creative thing I think that we can do. And creativity is one of the fundamental things we need to be able to do to go forward in our future as human beings. So if you think about human innovation and human development, curiosity and creativity drive human innovation. If you think about where we are today, I think the Bay is the epitome of something like that. It's a vision, right? It was curiosity about, can we make this happen? And it was creativity that conceptualized this city and has enabled us all to come here today and turn it into a place where everybody wants to come. So, but those elements that I've spoken about are potentially the elements we struggle most with in schools today. And because we have these entrenched ideas of what we think education should look like. And in the scope of the traditional mindset of what education should look like, all of those words I've just used, especially fun and playfulness, are maybe just left for the playground. Those are the things that children do in between lessons, not during lessons. So, and there's many different reasons for why I think creativity is something people struggle with. One of the things is because it means something different to all of us. And what I love about our panel here is that every one of us on this panel is coming with a different worldview. And I want each of you to describe and give your own background. But in a moment, what I also want to do is when you do give your introductions to yourselves, can you please also answer my first question to you, if I could combine the two, is creativity in education. In your world, what does that look like for you? And I think let's start with that. And if we could start with you, Farida.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm, loud and clear out there. Yes? Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm Farida Bharmal. I'm from India. And what do? I am a counselor, a graphologist, that's a handwriting analyst. Anybody here who writes? Okay. And a business and mindset coach. What do? Very simple. You know how children get stuck with academic pressure and emotional turmoils and uncertainty in their career paths? I simply help them get unstuck. That's one kind of people I deal with. The second kind of people I deal with are beautiful, confident, growth-minded, educated women, but for some reason, they have stopped, their career path and decided to stay at home. And after a while, they feel, what am I doing? I help them to get stuck as well, just a little bit of push. That's about me. And to answer your question, what does creativity in education look like to me? I'm not going to give you any, very intelligent answers. I'm going to make it as simple as possible for, what it looks like to me. It looks like gardening for me. Simple and easy, okay? It just looks like gardening for me, wherein I feel that the land is the child, and the educator is the gardener, who digs out this potential from the child, gently, without hampering their spirit. And in that process, also understands who they are, what their strengths are, plants those seeds of knowledge, which will give fruit over time. So that's what creativity in education looks like to me, because I believe that we all have different fingerprints, right? And they are given to us to leave our unique impression on the world. Thank you. That's what I feel. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Artemis Dupa. I'm the founder of a company called Make Academy. We are a business consulting company, and we specialize in fashion and interior brands, so a little bit different than everyone else, I think, and which are founded by visionary designers who are seeking growth, clarity, and freedom. And what we do is that we have programs where designers can come and learn about business and take that next step. So as you all know, or you might not know, but there's a big gap between the education and the real life of business, and this is where we come in and help with that. I have been teaching for a very long time now, and it's really, really beautiful to see all these students flourish into great designers and businessmen and women. So to answer your question, what creativity looks like in education for me, it's all about critical thinking, problem solving creatively, and also expressing one's ideas in a unique way. A world where everything is project-based and students can apply their knowledge by doing and also by creating something together. They can take real-world scenarios, work together, and solve complex problems and find solutions to them. Where teachers are, as you said, facilitators of learning rather than just transmitters of knowledge, and that will allow the students to explore, inquire, and also learn through doing. And this is more than enhancing just the academic achievement, it's also preparing them for what's coming later in life and all the struggles they might face. And this is promoting, of course, innovation, adaptability, and a lifelong love for learning. In architecture, for example, which I also have background on, There's a lot of projects which are based on green space, and we get the students to go outside and explore nature, explore different things, find out for themselves through research about spaces and form. And when they come down to make all of these projects into maquettes, then they will discover even further things like engineering and lighting, and how is that affecting the inside of the human emotion and the living. And for me, that's really what education, creativity in education is all about. It's all about this project making. And thank you very much.
John.
My name is John Weiss. I am formally I'm the program director to a school, a business school that has 5 campuses in Europe, and so I make sure that our teachers, our programs are in line with the requirements set out by the QAA of the UK. I'm also a senior lecturer in innovation strategy at entrepreneurship. I've been doing that for 20 years. I've been the program director for about 15. In addition to that, I've been writing literature and poetry. So I've published in 2 languages already, and I'm planning to publish in the 3rd one. Yeah, I combined the creativity, I think, in all the things that I do. And I think that how I do it is by going back to the definition of creativity, which is, has 2 components. One is a novelty. So we are creative to the extent that we provide something, new ideas or new products or new outputs. At the same time, we cannot be creative without adding value to somebody. And I think that that's very important. So it's not simply creating something new or teaching something in an innovative way, but doing it in a way that I'll be adding value to the people who are in front of me. Okay? So I think that the interesting thing, I would like to draw an analogy to a cook or somebody who is preparing dinner for their friends. So let's suppose that the friends are your students, and you already have certain menus that you work with, but you ask your guests what would they like to eat. And on the basis of what they would like to eat and what you have in the refrigerator, you try to prepare the best meal for them. So even though I always have a plan before I get in front of my students, I'm always like the cook who ends up cooking something different every time I'm in front of them. And I think that to the extent that I do that, I can be creative. To the extent that I do that, I can add value to the students who are in front of me. So I will be never cooking something the same because I have different people. I always have different people in front of me. To the extent that I do that, I can be both creative and effective. So that's just kind of like my lifelong challenge. And well, that's the only thing that I hope to live up to my own expectations and to the people that I had in front of me and my future students. Okay?
Hello there. Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Ryan. I am from Singapore and the founder of Genius Generation Youth Coaching. Before being here, I was actually in a pretty bad place. When I was young, I was in actually one of the most competitive education systems in Singapore. I also was a very quiet introvert. People would bully me. I would be at the back of the class, taking notes, not wanting to participate. And I think the bombshell dropped when I was 12 years old. I actually came down with childhood cancer because of all the stress. But then it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because being isolated at home and going through chemotherapy, I had this chance to explore into the realm of creativity, right? So worlds like Star Wars, The Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia, right? Books, movies, narratives. I was immersed in them. And along the way, I also found the confidence to better express myself, be in an artistic way or a literary way, right? And after getting up from there, I decided that, wow, this is something that I would like to share with the world as well and inspire the creative potential of everybody, and even the inner child of the adults. All of us here, we all have this inner child, right? And when we unlock it, who knows what kind of wonders we can face, right? What kind of wonders we can create, okay? So this is what I want to impart to the next generation, creative problem solving. And along the lines of what creativity means to me, is being able to see things from a new perspective and turn trash into treasure, right? If I give someone a pile of dung, okay, I know it's quite vulgar, but if give someone a pile of dung, most people will just walk away. But imagine those who stay behind, maybe they bake that dung into bricks, as they do in India, right? Or they turn that dung into fertilizer to grow nourishing plants in the garden, right? So this is the kind of angle that I want to help to inculcate in the next generation and in all of us so that we can make this world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this, thank you. Yes, absolutely. I think those are amazing. I think there's two, there's so many points, but I think the two trends are sort of that picking up from everybody's responses is A, creativity, it's not fixed. You often hear people say, oh, I'm creative, or I'm not creative at all. I'm not. But it's not fixed. Like, you're not born creative or not creative. Everybody has an element of creativity, and it's a muscle that can be honed and stretched. And the other thing that I've picked up from all of you is that problem solving comes into it. It's about how you approach things. So, because the other misconception about creativity can be that we associate it with artistic flair. So the artistic subject, and that's the realm of creativity, and if you're not interested in that, you're not creative. So that, I think, sort of leads, actually, your points lead us really nicely into my next question, which is, why is it, though, that creativity, why are we talking about this today, and why is creativity, beauty, expression, why is it so important in educational journey? But also, is it limited to only those subject curriculum areas? Frida.
Good question there, Shanella. So, in my opinion, I'll answer the second one first. No, it's not limited. I think if you I don't know who you are, where you are from, but you're in this room because somewhere down the line you decided that I'm going to be creative and do what I want to do and be who I want to be in my own way. We needed to embrace that. And the first question was, once again, if you could.
Why is creativity, beauty, and expression important in the educational journey?
Okay. It's very important because I feel that, it needs to be appealing and attractive. In fact, I remember reading this article once on a psychological experiment which they conducted, wherein there was this young girl. They dressed her pretty well, very beautiful, and sent her out into the crowd, and she asked for something. Now, people were willing to give it to her. And the same child, they dressed her in a little shabby way. And again, they sent her out. They had to stop the experiment midway because that child was about to cry. So somewhere that perceptions are working. When you want the learning environment to be there, obviously we need to make it appealing. We need to make it, attractive for that child so that they want to come up. And we, see, when the children of different ages, that's what we deal with, right? So initially, the idea is, if just one little seed that learning is fun, if that is one idea I can incorporate into the mind of that child, I think that is one skill which I learned yesterday, I was out there and speaking to one of the marketing people, and they said that the number one skill which anyone could have is learnability. You should be in a position to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And if that is one little idea that I can incorporate in that child's mind, yes, inshallah, I'll do that. So that is from my side. Yeah, thank you.
Beautifully said, because if they don't enjoy it, they're not going to do it unless they absolutely have to do it. Artemis.
The crucial thing about creativity is that it's more of unlocking people's potential. It's not just a fixed thing. it can be learned, as you mentioned, and it can be developed. And we all come from very different backgrounds. We all have very different personalities. And all this critical thinking, expression of identity, and finding that identity is all part of a creative process. Now, of course, everything, beauty and creativity looks different for everyone, but it is part of every single subject. And I'm glad you mentioned this thing about art, because there is a common misbelief that belief that art and humanities is the only subjects that creativity is part of, and this is completely wrong. It is embedded in all of the STEM subjects. The way people view beauty in mathematics or engineering, the way someone looks at a machine and finds this perfection of movement beautiful and creative, is not the same as somebody else in a different department or in different subject. And yeah, in my opinion, it's absolutely part of every subject, or it could be, or even if people don't think it is, it's still there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually. I would like to highlight the word empathy. And I think this is really a powerful idea, because I think that educators, we can only be educators to the extent that we exercise some form of charisma. The charisma, which is something that the machines don't have, is something that we can bring to the table, and that is born out of the empathy, the feeling of understanding, of putting ourselves in the shoes of a person that we have in front of us. And that is something that we as educators have in common with artists, and whoever creates something that is effective and that is something that is going to move other people. Okay? So to the extent that we start from empathy, we can be much more effective, much more creative. If we don't start from there, I think the road is going to be really, really hard. So to the extent that we do that, I think that this is something that educators have pretty much in common with artists, and I think that that's the kind of the link between beauty and art and creativity, which is the header of today's session. Okay?
Yes, I agree. As an educator, they actually have a lot of power to control how the lesson is structured, you see. So when a student finds that the educator is open-minded, they have the charisma, they have the energy, they will more or less likely mirror what the educator is reflecting to them. So in that sense, it can be very contagious even to have this kind of high energy, creative spark, infect the whole class, and then they can come up with these new innovations, new ways of thinking. They're not afraid to speak their minds. Right? I think one example also can be very simple in the form of flashcards. I used to teach kids in design school with flashcards. So just imagine a flashcard with the picture of an animal and then the name of the animal, right? So, and then they'll cut the card in half so that you have to piece them together. So for example, monkey, rooster, right? And then one of the kids came up to me one day and said, "Hey, Ryan, I made this, I created this new combination." And I said, "Okay, show it to me." Then he showed me he had the monk or the monkey, then he had the stir of the rooster, and then he put them together. He said, "Look, I created a monster." Yeah, and I was like, "Whoa, like okay." And then he was just laughing away, you know. So if we as educators can create the conditions for such play, for such discovery, then we are on the right track.
Yeah, I love that, and I think actually what you mentioned just takes me back to my own days in the classroom. I think when we can facilitate that. It's about helping students make those discoveries for themselves. If you think about creativity and innovation, it doesn't have to be new to the world. If it's new to you as an individual student, that's the powerful thing. And how can we create those experiences for our students? Rather than me telling students the difference between, one concept or another, a single sequence of instructions or a programming subroutine, if I can create the framework for the child to discover that concept for themselves, then at the end of the day, all we need to do is hang the terminology on top of it. So we could talk about just this question alone for the next half an hour, but to move us on, I think there's a lot of fear-mongering at the moment in artificial intelligence and around that, just globally across the world, but actually it's come up, quite expectedly in this conference itself several times across yesterday. So it's obvious, I'm going to ask you a question about AI, but my question is in your opinion, do you think AI and the increasing automation we have through modern technology, is it removing the need for critical thinking and creativity amongst humans? What are your thoughts?
Okay. This is quite a question, I must say. Is it removing the need for critical thinking? No, I don't think so. Seriously, Chanel, I don't. Why do I say? I'm going to, give some opinions which I have, just share my thought processes with you. See, human mind is really amazing. I mean, you can adapt very easily, provided you know how to do that. And artificial intelligence, I mean, our era has seen many things. We've seen floppy disks, we have seen CDs, we have seen clouds, where the information is stored now. And how did that happen? It happened because somebody thought about it and did it. When our parents were educating us, they did not know all this is going to happen. They did the best that they could. The educators did the best that they could. I mean, if we are here today, it's because they were, right? And they were intelligent enough for us to be who we are today. So one thing is that. Second thing is that this creativity which we are talking about, what is it known as, the mobile phones or the AI, you still require, that knowledge inside of you to use it well. Usually in my sessions, I give this example, that it's like a sleek, sharp knife. You use it, you misuse it. You can either be a master chef or you can be a serial killer. You choose. You choose. There is a bucket of choices in front of you. And at the same time, I tell them one more thing. You choose, that choice will have consequences for which you will be responsible. No blame, no complaint after that. You're responsible, period. XYZ said, no, nothing doing. So, yes, I love AI. It makes my life easy, completely, totally. The work is done like this, so I don't mind using it. Second point, which I'm going to say and then wrap it up, is because I also meet people, okay, especially with me, when I see my generation, the word no has been something we have been hearing a lot. Don't do this, don't do that. I said so, no. And it shows up. It shows up, right? At this point, it shows up. Because there is self-doubt present. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Something is kind of holding me back. And you are capable enough to do a lot more, isn't it? But that's holding me back, and that's happening at the back of my mind, subconsciously. This question comes up, why am I doing this? Why? I don't want the children at this point to go in the future and be faced with these questions wherein they have two thought processes. I'm not supposed to be using the technology, but when you go out there in the market, that is exactly what you're using. That is exactly the skill which people are going to measure you on. How much do you know? How much useful are you to me? This is one of the things, this is my opinion. I humbly just say that this is all I have to say about this subject, and you take your call after that. Yeah.
Thank you. That was very insightful. So, the AI topic is very hot, and I am a very firm believer that critical thinking actually should be even more encouraged, and we have to make a bigger deal about it, because as you mentioned, smartphones came and we all learned how to use them. We have maps, and you put in Google where you want to go, and then suddenly there you are. You don't need the need to read the key anymore. You don't need to know how to read a map. You can just go. And I'm very worried about the future generations because AI is here to stay. And as you said, there's no reason denying it yes, to people and saying, okay, the children shouldn't use it, this person shouldn't use it, we all should use it, but we need to learn how to use it, and we need to be teaching that and making it part of the educational journey. You know, in Sweden, I read recently in The Guardian, they decided to go a step back. So what they're doing is that they're taking the children back into writing in paper. They have removed all of the devices, and they said in a very clear statement that they don't want them to be looking at digital sources. They rather want them to be looking at books and learning from teachers and experts, because all of this AI has not been vetted and the information can be inaccurate. And this is a very important point to make. And if we don't teach the kids how to learn to have this critical thinking and go back to the basics and really make sure that we nurture that, then we're going to be faced with the problem of laziness and people just going to be typing things, oh, there is an answer. There's a lot of reports about kids submitting papers where it just says on the top, oh, here's your answer, or, you know, I hope this answer helps you. And then, obviously, this has just been taken through GPT and literally given without even being read. And this idea of reading, understanding, and using it as a tool to complement our knowledge and our work is the most important part in education.
Yeah, actually, this is something that I'm personally quite worried about. It is very easy to put together a document, and that is why it becomes much more challenging for us as educators, because now the students have to be much better, right? Because they have to work harder at, you know, moving at the speed that these devices, that these programs are moving at, becoming better at being creative, at reading, at exercising the critical thinking, analyzing what they read. So as educators, now we're going to have to work harder, because this device or these kinds of programs make it look much easier. And this is actually deleterious. I mean, it is helpful on the one hand, but it could be deleterious if we pass along the message that it's all fine, it's all easy, now you can relax. Because that way we're going to be educating a generation of stupid people, right? People who are going to be relying on programs, on things that are routinizing certain training models, right? And those training models may have some major flaws, right? May work in under some circumstances, but having the judgment and the capability to understand to what extent we can use them and how much we need to kind of stop and think things through. I think that this is something that we have to be pretty concerned about. So it's almost like the more the generative AI technologies become pervasive in the educational system, the more we have to go back to the basics of learning how to read and write. And that's going to aid the creativity, that's going to aid our capacity for problem solving and critical thinking.
Yes, in fact, a few days ago, OpenAI dropped their Sora AI, right? You can use text to create videos, and then that sparked a lot of concern for artists and content creators around. So the thing is, this cannot be stopped. It will just keep going on. The thing is, how do we leverage it to our advantage, right? So rather than being daunted by AI, which is kind of a losing battle, we can instead position ourselves to be the masters of the AI. So one way that can happen is to open up ChatGPT, okay, and then create a prompt library. So as an educator for the topic you are teaching, create a prompt library. And you can say, okay, ChatGPT, I'm going to immerse myself and my students in a Doctor Who kind of adventure. Okay, so drop me into this specific time period with like no resources. Maybe throw in some historical figures that I can interact with along the way. And then put it into ChatGPT. And then ChatGPT can create that scenario. And then together, Shanila, Farida, Artemis, John, and I, we have to answer ChatGPT. What are we going to do in this specific, ChatGPT will pose a question, we're going to answer it. And then ChatGPT will come up with answers like, okay, I like your response, you demonstrate this quality, you demonstrate this skill. Okay, now here's another curveball. What are you gonna do next? Then it's up to us to answer again. So in that sense, the teacher can then focus more on interacting with the students, and it's a them versus the AI kind of adventure, right? And then they can continue to stretch themselves along the way and let AI do the work of creating the scenario and dropping the problems. Because AI, although it is biases, it also has a collective consciousness of a lot of people's thoughts. So in a way, we can also learn from what other people are thinking through the algorithm.
I think I agree with all of you, everything that you've all said, because technology is here to stay. It's not going away. And I think as our role as teachers are in complete agreement. We need to teach our children how to ask the right questions, to use the technology in the best way possible, but then not just to be able to ask the right question, it's knowing what to do with the answers. That's the thing that we need to do. Like, how do we do that? And that only us as facilitators and teachers can do that. But, so, we're talking about questions. In a moment, I'm going to throw open to yourselves, the audience. Before I do that, I'm going to ask my panelists one more question. But I just want to prepare you, audience. I just want to give you a bit of advance warning. Because it's not just as questions that we want you to ask us. And when you do come up and ask your questions, do address tell us which panel member you're addressing your question to. If it's in particular, if it's open to everybody, that's fine as well. But we are all here very conscious that everybody in this room is an expert in their own field. We just happen to be the ones on stage, to be honest. That's the only difference. We're on stage. Yesterday we were on those tables. But everyone here is an expert, and I think we all have as much to learn from you as we hope we are providing information for you to take away from our discussions. So in addition to questions, if there is something that you've heard, for example, that's made you think, I might try this when I go back to work next week, then we want to hear about that. If it's a comment, or if there's a disagreement with something that's been said, we want to hear about that too. And if you've got something that you're doing that you think actually helps inspire creativity, then we'd like to hear that. But I'm conscious of time. So I am going to ask this question, but I want to, and while people are able to sort of come up, let's keep it super concise, okay? Thinking about the future and our solutions, how can we, one action to take forward that we think that we could do as a next step to sort of bridge that gap between school and industry. Between school, industry, where students are today, the world they need to go in tomorrow, one thing we can do as facilitators to bridge that gap.
Very good question. Very good question again, Shanala. 3 things which I'd like to mention over here. This is my opinion completely. First thing I would say is skill development. Any and every skill, survival skill, life skill, soft skill, you name it, allow that child to experience it. I tell this all the time, a skill is for life, 1. 2 is...
Can I stop you at 1? Okay. Can I stop you at 1? I'm looking at the time. I'm really sorry, but I want to hear from everybody.
Yeah, sorry. This is actually interesting because I am part of the roundtable in the UK Parliament. And what we see is that there's a big gap between the skills, as you mentioned, but not just the students in school, in university, when they come out, and I'm in the fashion industry, and what happens is that students come out and they don't actually have the ability to work. They don't have any soft or hard skills, they don't have any sewing experience, and this is very difficult for the industry as well to progress as much as for the students to learn. And what I have done from my end to try my best to help that is that I have wrote a book which became an international bestseller, and what the feedback we have received from that is that it's about teaching designers how to enter the business world and helping them with their business and their entrepreneurship trip. And what is important is that the feedback we receive is actually reassuring us that there is a problem, or is showing us that there's a massive problem between industry and business.
Just John and
Yeah,
right.
I would actually be, I mentioned before that reading and writing, I think, is essential, that we go back to basics, and I think that we have to instill students the joy of reading and the joy of writing. And I would add a third one, asking questions, and become comfortable with ambiguity, because the world is full of ambiguity. So it is important that as they grow, that they get used to asking as many questions as possible, right? And not looking for the right answer, because probably there isn't a right answer in life, right? But it is important that they become comfortable with asking many questions and looking for their path in their careers, in what they want to construct or what they build in the future.
I just have 2 words. Testing. I just have 2 words that you can Google when you get back home. First one is world building. Okay, take that down, world building. The other one is moonshots. Moonshots. Okay, you want to know more? You can find us later and we'll discuss.
Very quickly, if anyone from the audience has anything. Yes, can we have?
Hi, my name is Yuri. I have one question. What kind of effort have you made in order to catch up with AI technology or, yes, computer developing trend? What kind of effort have you made to catch up with the trend? I myself started to be enrolled in MBA to learn about Tableau or Power BI in order to, yes, be accustomed to answering the questions from digital natives. In Japan, 8-year-old kids are digital natives. So I'd like to hear from one person or 2 people.
Who would like to take that? John?
Could you repeat the question? I didn't hear it.
I think it's what efforts have we made to with the trends in technology and in terms of preparing our students to keep up with the trends. So I can answer this question. I'll take this question. I think the thing is, technology is evolving so fast. So when I was helping to draft the sort of national curriculum for computer science in England, we had to address your point, actually. Because if I wrote a curriculum that talked about specific technologies, that's going to be out of date within the next 3 years. But government curriculums don't change every 3 years. We were lucky to get a computer science. We knew 10 years later, we still have the same curriculum. So it wasn't going anywhere fast. But so it's about, when you are looking at something generally, it's about boiling it down to the core discipline. What is the core discipline? What are the core principles? Focus on the concepts and the principles. That's then for the educator at the time to be able to look at, what is the technology my students are using outside of school? How can I take these principles and apply them to their experiences outside of school to make their learning both relevant and contextualize it to the world of work and employment and careers, and to help raise their aspirations? So 10 years ago, that would have been Google Glasses. Today, that's ChatGPT, it's mixed reality, it's the metaverse, it's all of these things. So that's constantly evolving. But the core principles upon which our subject curricula is based, they're rooted, they're not necessarily going to change as fast. So focus on that and move on. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, yeah. I think there's something interesting that we can learn from the Japanese culture, actually. And I think that the point is this. Japanese don't see technology as good or bad. They think, is this useful or not? They don't pose themselves a moral dilemma. If something is useful, they use it. The moment it's no longer useful, they get rid of it. So I think that's something that we can learn from the Japanese culture, right? I was always surprised at the fact that the Japanese, they use chopsticks when it's useful. But when they have to eat rice with curry, they use a spoon, right? Now, us Western people, we tend to see technology as posing a moral dilemma, and we should probably learn from the Japanese in the sense that, okay, ChatGPT is useful today, let's use it. Tomorrow there'll be something better. Okay, let's get rid of ChatGPT and adopt something else.
Can I, very quickly, what I usually do in my classrooms, especially with this, see, I'm not a teacher, but the schools do call me for certain sessions and workshops. And I had it on digital mavericks, how the change makers of tomorrow. What I basically did is show them the examples of what's happening right now, what's going to be when you're going to go out. Obviously, the technology is changing, the era is changing, you are getting these things. So in India, we usually do this. We call the experts from different fields and we expose the children as to what's happening right here, right now, so that when you go out, you are in a, you feel okay about it. So that's what I would like to say about what we do. Yeah.
I feel like you've got something. Yeah, you sure? Okay. Right, I think we're good. Okay, I know there's more questions, but I can see the organisers looking at me saying, Shanila, you're a terrible moderator. Seriously, get off the stage for goodness sake. So I will get off the stage, but I think what we've proven here is that this is such a hot topic for conversation. We'd all love to talk.
We're all around today, if I'm not wrong. So please come and find us and ask us the question in person. We're more than happy to answer to anything you have to say.
Absolutely.
And open an even bigger conversation.
Absolutely. We're all here for the conference. Please speak to us afterwards. We really do
I think the
want to
timer reset to 40 minutes. We can start again,
Yeah.
actually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's give them all a round of applause. Okay. You're gonna have your photo? Stay up there for your photo. And Shanila, I have to disagree. I think you are a wonderful moderator.